What's going on, everybody? It's EricRayweather back here, and in today's video I'm going to be going over the 5 best and the 5 worst things about Madden NFL 19. I'm also going to go over some other likes and dislikes about the game, so consider this basically my Madden 19 review. I have had early access to the game. I have played the game a good amount, so I have a good feel for it, for what's good and what's bad about the game. So if you're on the fence about buying, maybe this video will help you make a decision one way or the other. So you'll see some gameplay in the background, but I'm just going to talk and get right into it. So 5 best things. Number 1, the new Solo Battles game mode. This game mode is a lot of fun. This is an Ultimate Team feature, so if you're not an Ultimate Team guy, then this isn't going to be for you, but this is a really great feature that was added to Ultimate Team. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Basically, it is you compete against a computer 13 games a week. There's different difficulty settings, and you're trying to get the highest battle score. Now, things that determine your score are, how many points you score, how many points you win by, how many passing yards you get, rushing yards, first downs, catches, on defense, sacks, interceptions. All of this stuff factors into your total score, and at the end of the week, at the end of the 13 games, your goal is to get the highest on the leaderboard. There's a top 100 leaderboard, and you win rewards for Ultimate Team depending on where you place. But this is also good for the guy that loves to play Ultimate Team and build his team, but doesn't really like to play in head-to-head games because maybe the competition's a little too stiff for him. Maybe he prefers to play against a computer. So this is a game mode for that guy, and I think this is definitely one of the best additions to Madden 19. Number 2 of best things in Madden 19, team celebrations. This is a really fun addition to the game. To me, there's, I believe, over 40 celebrations, and EA said that they have the ability to add more celebrations throughout the year through title updates. So depending on what players are doing in the NFL, they can add more stuff. But there's just a lot of crazy team celebrations, like even ones you've seen in real life, like the Dragon Ball Z celebration that the Steelers do, the Duck Duck Goose celebration that the Vikings did last year. You have signature celebrations for each player, like Odell Beckham will do his signature dances and things like that. So it is very true to real life, but you also have some generic celebrations as well. Now, you can celebrate after you score touchdowns. I believe you can also celebrate after you sack the QB. I'm not sure if there's any other ways to celebrate. Those are the only 2 that I have personally seen. But that's number 2 of things that I think are best about the game. Team celebrations really add a lot of fun to the game, in my opinion. The 3rd best thing about Madden 19 is the addition of the real player motion technology. Now, at first, this is going to feel weird to you. It's going to be a lot harder to run the ball. It's going to be a lot harder to run after the catch. It's going to be a lot harder to make cuts and jukes, because the whole motion of the player is different now. You can't change direction as quickly unless you perform the one cut, which is a part of the real player motion. The one cut mechanic gives you a speed burst that you can kind of cut out of a break, and you can only do it about once per play, but that's the only time you can really change direction quick. Everything else, it's going to feel kind of sluggish at first, but once you get used to it, the running is more realistic, and it does make the game a little harder, but like I said, it does make the game realistic too. And I think you see players move a lot more true to real life. Smaller players move like a smaller player would, and bigger players, you feel the difference when you're running with a bigger player, or if you're scrambling with a Mariota versus trying to roll out with a Tom Brady, you feel a huge difference. Whereas in years past, they kind of all felt the same. The only difference was speed, but now you actually feel the difference because of that speed or because of the weight of the player. It definitely all factors into how you move with the ball. The number 4 best thing about Madden 19 is the addition of custom draft classes to franchise mode. This is a huge feature for franchise mode people. Now you can, have a custom draft class of the rookies that'll be coming in the next year, or you can do a theme draft, do a legend draft, whatever creative type of draft you want to do. You're able to do that, and there's going to be tons of people in the community that do this, and you're going to be able to just go online and download, somebody else's roster. So if you're the guy that's saying, well, I don't want to sit here for days, putting together a custom draft class, that's fine, because there's going to be plenty of people that are more than happy to do that, and they're going to upload it, and you're going to be able to download it and add it to the game and use it. So that's a great addition if you're playing in franchise mode. That really, not having custom draft classes really hurt the game mode for the past couple years, but I'm glad that we finally have that back. And the 5 best thing about Madden 19, in my opinion, is there is more of a skill gap this year. Now, it is still early, so we really don't know what kind of twists and turns the game could take. Different patches come out and change the whole, complexity of the game. But as of right now, the game feels a little bit more skill gap based than it has been in years past. Last year 91 zone made it to where anybody could play defense if you got the right players. This year you're going to have to be strategic on defense and scheme better. On offense you're going to have to scheme better. Running the ball is not as easy as in years past. I think a lot of people are going to be mad about that at first, but last year, last couple years, anybody could run a pitch, a stretch, and just dominate. This year, because of real player motion, you're going to have to take your time running the ball. You're going to have to make precise movements. You're not going to be able to juke and fake out user defenders left and right like last year. So there is more of a skill gap to the game. That could obviously be changed through title updates. We never know what twists and turns the game may take, but as of now, definitely feels like there's more of a skill gap. And even on the competitive scene this year, when you're playing competitive salary cap mode during the tournament qualifying or things like that, it's going to now be on competitive settings, which means all Madden with no previous play on and things like that. So the competitive scene will have more of a skill gap this year too, because of the way that they're going to operate. So I think that is a very good thing about the game this year. Now let's get into the worst things in my opinion. Number one would be repetitive celebrations. Now I did say I love the addition of new celebrations, but some of them get a little bit too repetitive. For example, there's one team celebration that seems to trigger about 80 to 90% of the time, where everybody just kind of gets in like a group and just starts wilding out and dancing, and there's one guy in the middle that scored the touchdown and everybody's around him kind of dancing. I tend to see that celebration almost every time I do a team celebration, so that would be a gripe that I have, is I see the same celebrations happen too often when there is a large variety of them actually in the game, and I know this for a fact. So I would like to see a little bit more diversity when I'm actually doing these celebrations. I don't want to see the same celebration, twice a game. I want to see different celebrations being pulled out. The number two worst thing about Madden 19 is player movement after catching the ball. Now I did mention that real player motion is very good this year. I like the player movement overall, but specifically after catching a ball this year, it feels really hard to get upfield. And this was a gripe that I had, a month ago when I said 5 concerns that I have about the game. And this still seems to be an issue even with the game now being officially out on early access. You could throw a drag route or a short in route over the middle, and you just want to get upfield, and they plant their foot so hard, and it's like really sluggish. And there's a lot of times where you should get a consistent 5 or 6 yards, but you're getting 2 or 3 yards because you simply can't get going upfield. It takes so long to transition from where you're at to turning upfield that the defender is able to close on you. This happens especially on flat route passes too. You can have 10 yards of space in the flat, but because of how they move so sluggish at getting upfield after the catch, when you should have been able to get a 7 or 8 yard gain, you typically will get a 3 or 4 yard gain a lot of times. So I don't know if that's intentional or if that's something that they're working to fix, but the movement after catching the ball is something that is problematic for me and one of my least favorite parts about the game right now. Number 3 worst thing about the game is players still go through each other a lot. This is called clipping. Now, every video game has clipping. I don't expect Madden not to clip. That's just a part of video games. You're never going to have it perfect, but I've noticed this year it feels like players are going through each other a little bit more than I would like to see, especially like at the end of every play. It seems like somebody on the ground is running through another player. Sometimes when the ball is in the air, of course, when a defender's trying to defend a pass, they'll go through the wide receiver. Like I said, I know this is going to happen. I'm not expecting perfection, but I feel like I'm seeing this happen way more often this year than I've seen it in years past. Maybe it's always happened this often, and maybe I just didn't notice it before, but I feel like where we're at now, I would like to see this happening a lot less than it is. So that's something that, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it can kind of get annoying to keep seeing it too often throughout a game, and kind of like can take you out of the game, because it really is obviously unrealistic. But yeah, that's one thing I've noticed a lot that I'm not too happy with. Number 4 worst thing about the game is the block shedding. Now, I did get confirmation that the block sheds were turned up this year. The block sheds on run happen a lot more consistently, and the block shedding on passes happens very quickly this year. In years past, a lot of times you would have a lot of time to throw the ball in Madden, and that's obviously not realistic to real life. In real life, you might have 3-4 seconds max, and that 4 seconds is even a lot of time in real life. Whereas in Madden, you could usually have 4, 5, 6 seconds pretty consistently. So I understand that for realism, yes, pass rushers should shed their blocks quicker because they do in real life. But in terms of Madden, though, it really can be a pain when sometimes you have 2 to 3 seconds to pass and it seems like guys are just instantly block shedding very quickly. I know people aren't going to like this, and maybe this gets tuned throughout the year, but you know, when you pass the ball, it seems like you really have to get the ball out quick this year. People often complain that, you know, people spam drag routes or stuff like that, but you really have to this year, because if you try to get, you know, the 10-20 yard play too often, you're going to take a lot of sacks this year, and there's just a lot of instant sacks that seem to happen very too often. Running the ball against like the computer and things like that, it seems very hard. They just seem to instantly block shit every time, so that's not something I really like too much. And the number 5th worst thing about the game is there's still not enough immersion for me. Now, yes, you know, they did update some good things. They did a new halftime show. It's a little bare bones, but it's a start. They did add new NFL draft presentation. They did add some new interactions on the field, but there's still a lot of things that are missing. Obviously, there's still a lot of equipment that's missing. You know, CARR still doesn't have his turf tape. Mouthpieces are still not in the game. You know, there still needs to be more to the halftime show. I think there needs to be more on the sidelines. Obviously, players on the sidelines still don't have their, you know, name on the back of their jersey, which just at this point does look goofy. So I think the immersion is getting better, but they still have quite a long ways to go, and I thought we would see more of those things implemented this year, but we just didn't. So now that those are my 5 best and 5 worst things, I'll just quickly cover some other likes and dislikes. So likes, love the new hit stick and catch animations. They're really refreshing. You see some really crazy big hits and even taunting after the hits this year. You see a lot of crazier spectacular catch animations and rat catch animations, and DB interactions. Their animations, the way they defend passes this year, is very good as well. The zone logic is improved. Now, yes, the zone defense at times still is kind of easy to glitch out or still isn't perfect, but the logic is a little bit better. They match routes a little bit better now. They stay in position a little bit better now, but they still do have some work to do in terms of actually defending their area. But in terms of the logic of the zones, they're definitely improving. Man defense has improved. There's still routes that obviously toast man defense. It's just one of those things, but it's not completely useless now. It seems like it does defend a decent amount of routes pretty well if you have a good man defender. And the new upgrade system for both franchise and MUT I love. The franchise mode upgrade system, it's more of an archetype upgrade system now, so you can upgrade, you know, multiple stats at one time. In MUT, you upgrade cards. The system is a lot easier to upgrade now, and you can even downgrade if you want, whereas in years past you couldn't. Now you can actually downgrade and get some of your investment back, so I like that. Some quick dislikes, still no Pro Bowl in the game. They say there's an issue with it, a memory issue, something to do with the helmets, but you just think you want them to find a workaround for it eventually. Still no Pro Bowl is definitely something that makes franchise mode suffer a little bit. Running on the kickoffs looks really weird. I think I may have heard something about that's going to be addressed in a title update, because the running overall is fine on plays, but the running on kickoffs just looks really weird. It's been a big complaint, and I definitely see it too. It just looks wrong on kickoffs, but on regular plays it seems fine. And last dislike is just the lack of special plays. You know, no RPOs were added this year. I think we will get them next year, but you wanted to see them this year. No plays like Philly special. I think maybe we get that next year as well, but you would have liked to see that this year because it was so big last season. So yeah, that's basically my overall review of the game. Honestly, I'm a huge Madden fan, so I have the game and I'm going to get it every year. I'm a huge football fan. You know, I'm not as hard on Madden as some other guys are, but you know, if some of these things are make or break for you, then I hope I helped you make a decision. But overall, you know, Madden for me is an 8 out of 10 game almost every year. You know, it kind of just it doesn't go too far one way or the other. It stays kind of consistent in what it is. You know, it does minimal updates, and would like to see it do a little bit better in terms of updating. I think this year they did a little bit better job of upgrading across all modes instead of just focusing on one or two areas, so I think that was good. But yeah, overall, you know, Madden is an 8 out of 10 game most years, but we would like to see it get back up into that 9.5 out of 10 over the next few years, hopefully. So that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, as always, just drop a like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.